The passage of the Senate healthcare bill is still very much up in the air. It's been postponed, as you know from watching the show. But right now, Donald Trump is stepping in. And some people, some of his supporters, believe that he could be an important part of brokering some kind of deal. He certainly seems to have a lot of confidence in his deal-making abilities. And yet in this video, we're gonna break down some of the reasons why he might not be much use for them. First, we have some video from today's roundtable. Here, you're gonna see Trump talking about the possible passage of this bill. And I want you to evaluate, as you listen to this, how confident he sounds.
We're going to try and solve the problem. So I invited all of you, and I think we have either 52 out of 52 or 50 out of 52. And John, either one is pretty good, I think, as a percentage. So we're going to talk, and we're going to see what we can do. We're getting very close. But for the country, we have to have health care. And it can't be Obamacare, which is melting down. The other side is saying all sorts of things before they even knew what the bill was. This will be great if we get it done. And if we don't get it done, it's just going to be something that we're not going to like. And that's okay. And I understand that very well.
We're either going to get it done or we're not. And then we won't like that.
What? He seems as confused as a cameraman.
Yeah, exactly. The camera's like, who am I supposed to be on? And so there he said that it just can't be Obamacare, it's melting down. In another portion he said it's dying, it's dead, it would die later today if we didn't stop it from dying. And he said once again, he said, I think we're either gonna get very close or maybe we can pass it. And I know that I'm hypercritical of him, but when he says, I think we're gonna get very close, he doesn't seem to understand that means it wouldn't become law. Like he thinks that like you get most of it if you get very close. No, you get none of it. You get nothing, you lose.
Yeah, so there is another stunning part of this get together. It's actually two more, but along the theme of how little Trump knows. This is amazing. Look, even if you're a Trump supporter, and I think you're beginning in a sense of it. I saw him on TV there at this thing, right? And there was no volume on. And I keep always thinking, like, what would a person in the middle of Kansas think, right? And I think that even the guy in the middle of Kansas looking at that TV going, oh no, what's he saying now, right? So in the middle of that meeting, I'll tell you, the Republicans explained to him about the tax break for the wealthy and how opponents of the bill are beating them up on it, saying, hey, this is just a giant tax cut for the rich. And Trump doesn't understand it. That's a huge part of the bill that anybody would concede you're a Republican, doesn't matter. It's of course a huge part of the bill. I think it is the whole point of why they have been attacking Obamacare all along and can't wait to repeal it. Certainly a lot of the Republican donors feel that way and they've made that very clear. Trump then responds, oh no, we're gonna do tax reform later. We're talking about healthcare now. No, they're like, no wait, we're talking about the tax cuts in healthcare reform. And he just doesn't understand it.
Yeah.
So that solves a couple of things for you guys. He is, you know how they used to say about Obama, the Obama supporters, they'd say, oh, he's playing three-dimensional chess and you simpletons can't understand it. Trump is not even playing one-dimensional chess. Like there's some theories like, oh, he sent that tweet as a distraction, as a strategy to do X or Y. There's no strategy on anything. He doesn't understand the most fundamental parts of giant bills that his presidency hinges on.
Yeah.
He said that he would get rid of Obamacare and that he would replace it with this magical thing that lowered your rates but gave you better health insurance and covered everybody while saving the country money. Like no such thing obviously exists, and this certainly isn't it. But he doesn't even know what's in this bill. So the other Republicans are made uncomfortable in the meeting. They're like, oh my God, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know anything.
Well, look, he could know. The only way that he's going to learn the details of this legislation is if John Oliver runs another ad during Fox and Friends. Because honestly, like we know he watches hours of TV. It's complex to understand. I mean, we talk about this bill every day, but we spent one day in particular, as soon as the Senate bill came out, breaking down the major stipulations of it. And that's compressing so much information from so many different sources to try to sketch out the broad strokes of it. He's not even gonna get to those broad strokes, let alone the specifics. And so he's simultaneously applauding this bill that he's demonstrated no understanding of, that's very similar to the House bill that he celebrated when it passed, but then started attacking as being heartless and too cruel and needed major changes, and is saying that he's massively engaged on the passage of this one, while at the same time providing no evidence that he understands what is in it, and saying that if it doesn't pass, that will be okay. So if you're a Republican senator right now, and theoretically you're thinking, okay, man, if we don't pass this, that could be bad for me. If we do pass it, I could lose my re-election fight. And then you're looking to that bozo as your big, powerful ally, I would have no confidence whatsoever. And so when he does these meetings, that has got to be hurting their efforts.
Here's another quote from the New York Times. When asked by reporters clustered on the blacktop outside of the West Wing if Mr. Trump had command of the details of the negotiations, Mr. McConnell ignored the question and smiled blandly. In other words, of course I'm not gonna answer that question, and of course he doesn't have command of the details. What are we talking about, details?
Yeah.
He doesn't even know the biggest part of the bill. And so, John, good point. I mean, it's harder to rally political allies to your side if those political allies have no confidence that you even understood what you rallied people to, and hence, what are the consequences of that? And if I cross you, will you even remember it? If I support you, will you remember it? Or will you lie about it the next day? You know,
or in the case, I mean, look, he was really happy about the House bill supposedly, and then he started attacking it. So if you're a Republican senator, you have to consider the possibility that if you wager your career on this bill, that in the midterms, he might attack you for it.
No, you know, we used to say like that he's a third grader. It's like talking to a third grader because that's the level of language that he uses. That's according to actual analysis. But it's actually, I've got to lower it all the way down to a 3-year-old because I can talk to a third grader and have him understand things and we can go back and forth, no problem. It's like talking to a 3-year-old and like, do we have a deal? And a deal, hey, go, deal.
But they don't know.
But they don't know. They don't know what
they
deal
just
means.
Want juice. Yeah,
right.
That's a good point.
It is okay. So then, along these lines, he sends his pack to attack Dean Heller.
Yeah.
So who is the Republican senator from Nevada, who is among the vulnerable Republican senators, and they start attacking. Mitch McConnell gets irate over it. He calls the White House and says that move is, quote, beyond stupid.
Yeah. Then he smiled blandly.
So then they're like, oh, we're not supposed to attack that senator. Okay, and then they reel it back in. By the way, meanwhile, pretty much completely admitting that they are not an independent expenditure.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, like, everybody acknowledges that they contacted Donald Trump. Donald Trump okayed going after Heller with this multi-million-dollar ad buy when they're not supposed to be able to do that. Like, how is this operating so? I mean, not that he's going to investigate or the Republicans in the Senate or House are going to investigate, but it has become even more blatant and out there than it was before.
Yeah,
but
having the super PACs or any PAC coordinate with a candidate, or a super PAC coordinate with a candidate is against the law, right? So they said, no, it's okay though, because it's an independent expenditure. We're not coordinating. We're totally independent. That's why it says independent expenditure. Quote from the New York Times: the move against Mr. Heller had the blessing of the White House, according to an official with America First.
Yeah.
That's the PAC saying, yeah, we called the White House, we coordinated with them, they told us to attack that senator.
Yeah.
Why are they? How is that not an immediate investigation?
I don't know. He's also holding a fundraiser for his campaign at one of his hotels, I believe, in the next couple days. So his campaign will make money, sure, but his hotel will also make money. So he gets it coming and going. But I'm glad that we pointed out the Heller thing, because you have two areas of Trump here. You have the area where he's not helping them and doesn't understand what's going on and won't be able to help facilitate a deal, because look, if he doesn't understand what's in the bill, he is not going to understand what Heller needs in the bill, or what Susan Collins needs, or Rand Paul, or Ted Cruz. Often needs that work at cross purposes. He's not gonna get all of that. But that's one thing. It's another thing to then specifically start targeting vulnerable Republicans almost on day one over this bill, potentially pissing them off and losing their support as well.
So now you might do that if you had to twist arms. But I think what McConnell was saying to him is, hey, Donnie boy, we're gonna let a couple of the vulnerable Republicans vote against the bill, like very likely Susan Collins and Dean Heller, so that they could pretend to be against the bill so they could win their election. But meanwhile, we pass it anyway. That is a very common political move. But try explaining that to a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
So when he goes, okay, now goo goo, then gaga. Okay, goo goo gaga. Okay. When do I get juice?
Deal.
Deal. Young Turks now has over 6 billion lifetime views. You know who did that? You did that. We're now larger than CNN, ABC, you name a news network online, we're larger than them. And you built all that as everyone scoffed and didn't believe. And here we are, guys, thanks to you. Build independent media together with us at tytnetwork.com/join.